So after the Boston Tea Party, when the Sons of Liberty, with the help of some Boston residents, dumped about $1 million worth of tea in Boston Harbor, they were punished by what the colonists called the Intolerable Acts because they were just so bad they could not stand them. They would not tolerate them. And one of the Intolerable Acts had the ports of Boston closed. Now, Boston was a very important shipping city, a very busy shipping city, and they got lots of their goods in and out that way. And once the king imposed these rules on Boston, other colonists started to kind of show their support to those people in Boston, and they would send supplies and different things over land instead of over sea. Now, how did they get the information about what was going on in Boston in 1700s? Well, the colonies actually had a pretty good postal system set up by Benjamin Franklin, delivery on horseback, and they could actually get the word spread across the colonies pretty quickly, faster than the news could get all the way back to England. The colonists, especially those in New England, because of their Puritan ancestors that we learned about and their laws about having to educate people to read and write, were literate, which means they were able to read and write, and they had newspapers. And there are many newspapers throughout the colonies, and these stories would be printed in newspapers, and the colonists would read about these stories. But not all colonists were against the British government because they were British citizens. They were British colonists living in America. And so some colonists thought it was their duty to follow and listen to the king. So you have lots of different groups of people. Some people, now we call them patriots. Those would be the ones who wanted to protest against the taxes, and some of them now even wanted to separate from England. That was kind of a crazy idea still. Not everybody was ready to do that yet, but they did want to show the king that they didn't want to be pushed around. So we call those people patriots. Patriots are people who are, feel good about their country and show their support for their country. Well, the people that we call patriots, the English government would call them troublemakers or traitors because they were going against their king. Then you had people who were what we call loyalists. They were loyal to their king. Okay, they thought that it was their duty to follow the laws, that the British government offered them protection. They fought wars for them. They had trade with England. They made money trading with England. And so they thought it was in their best interests to listen to the king and not cause trouble. And then you always have that third group of people who are just busy living their life, doing what they were doing, and they didn't want any trouble. And they didn't want to get into the argument. They just wanted to do what they were doing and not be bothered by either side. We might call those people neutral. They're not for either side per se. So what you're going to do today is there's a few things that you're going to read. But first there's a video clip about the correspondence in the colonies, how they got news back and forth. That was kind of interesting. It shows what they called the committees of correspondence. And those committees would send messages back and forth to different leaders in different colonies, different patriot leaders, telling them about what was going on in their colony with the king and about protests and things like that. And then you have a video you're going to watch that's going to show you a little bit about the Sons of Liberty and the different people that were involved. This is actually a trailer for a TV series called Sons of Liberty. But I included it because it was kind of interesting because the actors kind of talk about who their character is. And so Sons of Liberty would consider themselves patriots, okay, because they're against the king. We would call them patriots now. Okay, so Boston Tea Party, Sons of Liberty. Other group of patriots would be the Daughters of Liberty. Okay, Daughters of Liberty are important because they are the ones a lot of times who are in charge of the household, and so when they would boycott things and refuse to buy things from England so they didn't have to pay the tax, they were the ones who would make the purchasing decisions and help figure out where to get things that weren't taxed. They would spin cloth so they didn't have to buy British cloth. Some Daughters of Liberty, if they were unmarried, would refuse to step out or court or date, for lack of a better word, men who were not against the British government. And some would even refuse to get married until the Stamp Act was repealed because they didn't want to pay the tax on the marriage license. So these are kind of your groups working against the king. And then you have your loyalists, those who are loyal to the king, who think the Patriots are causing trouble. And then you have your group of neutralists or neutral parties, people who are not for either side. So once you have watched the video about the committees of correspondence and then watch that little clip about the Sons of Liberty, you're going to read about these 3 different groups of people, and then you're going to do a brief assignment based on those 3 readings.